എന്തിനാ പാടില്ല
Who's been here before? Oh, only a few of you. Welcome back. So, it's not my castle, I wish it was. It belongs to somebody far more powerful than I. However, hopefully, today is grand, as he might be for you. My name is Peckin. You don't meet many Peckins, I know that. I've not met any others in my life. However, I'm here because I work here at times. I am here to repair some of the leatherwork. I'm what's known as a knacker, somebody who repairs all sorts of leather. So I'm here because generally there's always people in and around the grounds of this castle being at work. Now the royal entourage are not here. Now talking of the royal entourage, do you know who it is that had this castle built for it? What's it? You are quite right, Henry II, and if anyone says his name you ought to shout, "Long live the king!" So Henry II, he does come here every now and again, he passes through, but of course he is a very, very powerful king. He's descended from greatness and his lands are not just England. They stretch all the way down to the Pyrenees by Spain. We'll talk more about that in a bit. You see, while I've been here today and working on some beasts inside the castle and leathers that need to be repaired, I've had a few people come up to me and ask me questions about this place, and I now understand, as there's only a couple of people who have been here before, that maybe you've got a lot of questions. And I thought maybe I could give you a bit of an introduction to this castle, as I know it fairly well. It's being built for King Henry. It was started in 1181, and he is spending an absolute fortune on this place. People are all flocking to come and see this castle. It's a way for him to show off. And to understand just a little bit more, let's say the castle at this time, I understand would cost around about £500 or £600 if you want a very good castle. When you go to £700, you've got an amazing castle. Henry so far has probably spent about £5,000–6,000 on this one. And he's not done yet. This is the most expensive project he's put money into in his entire reign. So this place is worth understanding why it is so great. And so I thought perhaps I could take you in, I could point out a few little bits to understand more about the castle, but also Henry II. So we're going to head up these stairs in a moment. If you want to ask me any questions, just shout Peckin. Don't throw things at me, unless it's, food or whatever. But otherwise, just get my attention and I'll tell you what you want to know rather than me just talking at you. Can we all agree that the conversation is more interesting than a lecture? Yeah. Good. I'm glad you replied. All right, we're going to go inside. The first landing you'll come to, just so you're aware, it is a chapel, so that you can, if you've sinned this morning, beg forgiveness before we go in. Follow me this way.
Bye. into the castle.
I'm not going to linger us here too long at all. The door is blocked away from anybody else who doesn't want to listen to my wholesome tours. However, I will stop us here for a brief moment. I've stopped above a drop below us. On your way up, we would have already gone through two sets of doors if you were right. There would be a further door here. Now this castle, it is not built for what you might think. Well, why do people tend to build castles? What's the point?
Safety.
Safety, absolutely. Where was it?
Fortification.
Fortification, absolutely. That's generally what we would think. In truth, this is not built for that. This is built to welcome people in. It's a guest house. And I'll explain again more about that once you've all got a seat. However, having said all of that, castles will also incorporate things in case somebody did attack and you needed to change its use later down the line. And so, there is what we have portcullis here, a drawbridge that will be lowered so that it can come back up and you can shut doors here, and there's a pit in front of you if you're coming up those stairs. It will make you far safer inside. For that to work, you would need chains that can lower this drawbridge. You'll see that there are no holes in the walls here to be able to do that. And that's because this castle is far more advanced. When I said that the king is spending a fortune on it, he really is. So if, when you walk up this way, you can see through the slats of this, you'll see below us that the stone has been shaped where there are grooves almost cut out that drop all the way down to the floor. And that is because there will be a counterweight system of stones that match the exact weight of the door. Which means when you lower the door, these weights just perfectly pivot on its base so that the door can lower and raise up at the same time. It means you don't have to work very hard to lift that drawbridge back up again. You just need a tiny little push and it basically does the work for you. So this is not something you find in most castles in the 12th century. This is far more advanced. That's something that's easy to see as you come in. But at the top, there are one set things you might not have noticed that are hiding within the walls themselves. So we're just going to go to the top landing and I'll explain more up there. So follow me. Alright, something I should point out, though we are covered at the moment, this is all scaffolding, this will be gone when the castle's complete. This will be all open to the skies, which means you've not actually entered the castle yet. You have come up a very grand set of stairs, because it is not designed for you to enter this castle at ground level. You raise yourself up towards greatness. And so we are up at the levels of the kings, and when the king is here, you'll be able to go in and meet with him there. We'll go into the hall in just a moment. But that's why you don't come in at ground level. It's so that you realise you're rising up to something better than yourselves. Almost as though you're getting closer to God. However, with this being open to the elements, if you were to arrive here in the summer, that's quite well, it's warm. You might know if anyone's from the coastline at all, it can get a bit inclement here. It gets windy, it gets rainy, it gets horrible. And in the winter it can be freezing. And if the king is here, we'd expect at least 1,000 people travelling with the king. So it gets busy. You might be sat outside this castle for a little while before you're invited in. So there is a luxury here that you would never have noticed. There is a wooden bench here currently. Again, it's because the castle's not finished. There will be a stone bench here when it's done. And as you walk in, you'll see that there is a hole in the corner here in the floor. That's meant to be there. Because that connects down to the floor below where there are burning braziers and the pantry for the bread to be cooked. And the heat from the ovens and those burning braziers is funneled up and in towards this seat. It's going to be an outdoor heated seat for you. So this is luxury. It also feeds into the guard chamber, which is where I'm working today. So if anyone wants to meet me later, I'll be in there. You'll notice that there are holes in the floor at the corners. That is a heated room for the guards who can take your weapons when you arrive here, should you wish to be looked after before you go in. So this is the first door to enter the castle properly. And you might notice it's clad in leather. Some of my fine work, I hope you appreciate it. Why? To stop the breeze blowing through the doors. So this is the first proper external door. Now, if you were to think of a castle and how you would lock a door, you might think of a big heavy beam having to be lifted into place and to lock these doors with an iron bracket behind it. There's very fine ironwork on the outside of these doors, but on the inside you will find no ironwork. And that is because this castle has a central locking system built into it. When you go through here, look to your left, just behind this door, you'll find that there's a very heavy oak beam which is slid into the wall itself, and with a handle on the end of it. When you close the doors, you just slide that across, it will lock into the other side, your door is locked, and you don't have to do any heavy lifting at all yourself. Again, not something you'll find in many castles. But here's the one that blows my mind and everybody's. Just through the tiny little window there, and as we go in, there is a well house here for water. Now that's something you'll always want in a castle, especially if somebody tries to attack you, you want to make sure that you've got clean water. But why is the opening to the well on the second floor? It doesn't make any sense. You've made it harder to get water out of the ground. The truth is, this castle has pipework. When it was built, each stone was designed to have a little sort of tunnel carved through it. And then they poured lead into it, so that the lead will create a pipe inside. And then these stones, when they sit on top, they marry perfectly to create your lines of pipes. And that means when we bring the water up to this level, if you look at the well, we won't all go in there, there's not enough room for us all, but have a look at it afterwards. Look to the left of the opening of the well, you'll find the opening to those two original pipes. Pour water down one, it'll take it to the kitchens, pour it down the other, it takes it to the dining hall. So we have running water in this castle. And again, when I talk about these pipes being in the walls, we also have a way of catching rainwater. It will go over towards that corner there where there's a huge lead bucket to collect rainwater. But what you don't see is in the walls here. These are hollow. There's a bit of pipe work just there you can see. So funnel rainwater from the roof and feed it to where we need in the castle as well. Way, way, way more advanced than anyone else has got. However, let's go and get a seat. Come into the castle. I noticed that beam as we go through. Make yourselves comfy as you can. Now the king's not here, and I'm not present, so if anyone wants to see it, it's not a seat. Come in, come in, come in. If you want to, take a seat. Younger ones, I suggest take a seat on the floor in front of the benches. If there's anybody who needs a seat, and there's someone sat in it, just tell me and I'll throw them on to them. Lovely. Come in, come in. The only thing I'll ask is just don't block the stairs. That's lovely. Alright, welcome into the King's Hall. So, as I said, the King doesn't travel here that often. He has a huge amount of land. And when you arrive here, you realise you're rising yourself up. But the King also wants to see who is arriving in his hall. So should he be sat in his throne here, we know it's a throne because it's underneath it's on a dais underneath a canopy. It tells us that this is a royal seat. But you've also come up a lot of stairs to come down some stairs. Why do we go up that high if you actually need to go down? It's so that the King and those in this court can see you arriving as you come down. It gives you an entrance, but it gives us a chance to see who is arriving as well. So that's why the stairs come down into the hall. And this hall is decorated for the King should he be travelling through. A lot of the furnishings can be moved on, as I understand is happening today. Some of them are being catalogued to be moved on with the King, who's currently over in Normandy. So let's just talk about how Henry II became King of England and how he has so much land and why he travels so much. And really to understand that, we might as well look at the story that he's had put inside this hall. So there is a frieze that goes all the way around the room. It's very common you'll find painted tapestry ideas like this painted directly onto the walls themselves. But this tells the story of our King's great-grandfather, a man who arrived here in this country in the year 1066. Does anyone know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
I'll tell you what, on the count of three you can all say it. 1, 2, 3.
William of Normandy.
But William the... Good, that's what we know him as. But otherwise he was William the Duke of Normandy. And this story here, actually, look at the very first picture you can can see it over here. There is a king, and he's depicted handing a writ, a promise, and it's been promised to 3 different people in front of him. Now that king is actually the king of the Anglo-Saxons at the time. His name was Edward the Confessor. Confessor is just a pious name, it means he was very religious. However, Edward the Confessor promised his crown apparently to 3 people. One of them being William, the Duke of Normandy, because Edward the Confessor's mother was from Normandy. But then he also apparently promised it to a man called Harold Godwinson, son of Godwin. And Harold, he was an Anglo-Saxon, a very strong, powerful landowner. And then there was another one. His name was Edgar the Athlete. Edgar is apparently a nephew of King Edward, but he was a child and not really old enough to rule. I mean, the name Athlete is very good. It's an old Anglo-Saxon name that means noble and worthy to rule. But he was still a child. Now, after having promised this crown to 3 different people, there was a moment when Harold Godwinson was on a ship, and he was shipwrecked in Normandy. And he became sort of the prisoner, shall we say, of William, the Duke of Normandy. And at that time, Harold promised that when Edward the Confessor died, he would support William in his claim for the throne, and would not try and take the throne for himself. So, when Edward the Confessor dies, Harold goes against this. He claims himself king of England. Edgar the Athlete is too young, nobody supports him. And Harold becomes the new king of England. And William is furious about it. He sees Harold as being an oath breaker. He promised that he would support his claim, and now he's gone against it. And so this is the rest of our story here. You'll see, perhaps over here, there are trees being cut down, ships being built. This is the story of the Normans coming towards England. They get upon their horses, something very important. In France, they use horses on the battlefield. The Anglo-Saxons did not. Yes, keep coming in, keep coming in. In fact, any of you want to tuck in, let's not walk that door around it. Come forward. They prepare for battle, they've arrived here. You might see just in this frieze here, a king celebrating, drinking. That is Harold Godwinson. Something it was known the Anglo-Saxons did very well was drink heavily. And the night before battle, they are in revelry, enjoying themselves. However, over here, the night before battle, you will find the Normans in prayer. This is a holy endeavour for them. In fact, William had even sent an emissary to the Pope to ask for the Pope's blessing to invade England, and apparently he gave it. So, here we have the day of the battle. The Normans attack towards the Anglo-Saxons. Anglo-Saxons using an old tried and tested technique, taught really by the Romans originally and handed down through Viking lines. Lock your shields together, you'll be fine. But not against horses. And so the horses managed to eventually break their way through this shield wall. Until you will find, can anyone tell me what happened to Harold Godwinson at the Battle of Hastings, as we call it?
He died.
He got shot in the eye with he died, good, right? He got shot in the eye with an arrow. This is the story we all know. The truth is, that story was written down by the church in Rome about 12 years after the battle. And by the person that wrote it down apparently had never been to England. So how did they know? Well, we don't know if they did. The thing is, the punishment in the church for anyone who is considered an oath breaker is to have your eye removed. It's rather fitting that the church has written down what happened to an oath breaker as he was seen because the Pope had given his blessing, and it just so happened in his moment of need, Harold looks up towards the heavens and an arrow falls out of the sky and gets him right in the eye. It's almost perfect. I'm not saying it didn't happen, I don't know it wasn't. However, it's possible it did. All we know is Harold definitely died. And William goes on to be known, of course, as William the Conqueror. He takes over. But he can't do it with soldiers. At the Battle of Hastings, we think he was probably outnumbered. So after he wins the battle, he's definitely lost soldiers fighting there. So how does he take over the rest of the country when he's outnumbered at one battle? Well, we know how he does it, because we've got the proof. In the first 2 years of William being here, he builds over 200 castles. Castles are the way for him to show how powerful he is. With a castle, it's difficult for your enemy to attack you, and you can be safe inside it. From that day in 1066 to this day in 1185, there are over 1,000 castles being built in England. So castles were the way forward. And this final picture you'll find over here is not William, Duke of Normandy, Henry II, great-grandson of William the Conqueror. And he has this castle. This is Dover Castle that is pictured here. And you see it is a square design. as were the castles of William the Conqueror. In truth, castle design has changed in the last 100 years. We'll now find rounded turrets, but Dover Castle does not have them, because this is Henry's way of saying, I am as great as my great-grandfather. And so this is a monument to that power as you arrive in England. And you are invited as guests, because this is an add-on to the land that he has. Imagine that this room is all of Henry's land. Then we say the dais is England, and the rest goes down to the Pyrenees by that. That's how powerful he is. So if you want to invade England, you need to get through Normandy first before you can attack it. Which is why this is not designed for war. It is a stopping point as you travel on. Most people, possibly on their way towards Canterbury. Anybody on their way towards an apology? Henry II, when he took control in this land, it came after a time known as the Anarchy. There were 30 years of civil war because they couldn't agree on a woman controlling this country. Now when Henry takes control, it is said that if you walk from one village to the next, you will be robbed. Now it is said, partway through Henry's reign, if you walk from the very tip of Scotland down to the Pyrenees, you will be found. Henry has managed to properly take control. And the biggest problem he faced in England was the laws. You see, there were Roman laws that still existed here. There were Viking Anglo-Saxon laws that still existed. And then the church had its own laws beyond that. And Henry wanted one law to control everything. And the people that resisted, the church. And so Henry thought, well, how do I control the church? And then he came to, perfect. I will place a man of my own at the highest position in the church, Archbishop of Canterbury. And when the Archbishop died, he realised his close friend, Thomas Becket, very good friend, drinking buddy, they went hunting all the time, they loved having birds of prey, going out riding and doing other things with ladies. However, they were very good friends. He places Thomas Becket as the Archbishop of Canterbury. And then straight away, Thomas Becket turned around and said, well, I can't serve God and King. I choose God. And they had a huge falling out. Thomas Becket would not do what Henry hoped. In fact, he always worked directly against him. And Henry hated this. There was a massive falling out. They were exiled at times, until eventually Henry lost his temper and 4 of his knights took it upon themselves to leave Henry's court, travel to Canterbury, they drew their swords in Canterbury Cathedral and killed Thomas Becket. His brains were smeared around the floor. It was atrocious. And for this, Henry was blamed, because they were his knights, regardless of whether he did it or not. Now, Henry had to apologise. And while he was being whipped at the shrine of Thomas Becket, his enemy, the King of Scotland, was captured. And it was seen that God had forgiven him. And then this became a shrine at Canterbury, where people would travel. It became the most popular pilgrimage spot in all of Europe. And so thousands of people every year arriving into England. And one of them being the King of France, because his son got it. When he arrived, there was nowhere fitting for a royal king to stay between here and Canterbury. So Henry, being embarrassed about it, decided, well, I will change that. I will make a castle that is fit for kings, but it also shows off my power and how I got to it. So this castle is in honour of St. Thomas Becket. There is a chapel directly behind here, if you go around, that is dedicated to Thomas Becket himself. There was a chapel on your way up the stairs, because this is for pilgrims on their way. It is designed for you to stay. It is your guest house. So, I've kept your time, perhaps long enough. As it is a guest house, you should wander through it. Go and find yourself, perhaps a bed if there is one in the guest dining room, out in the guest chambers if you're staying. Otherwise, if you want to ask me any more, come and find me. But be guests, that's the point. Thank you very much. Enjoy the castle.
Take these visitors back down.
So she left this one. Did you see
Yeah,
that?
I saw that.
No. Right, move away before you break something, yeah? Sorry. Come out carefully and break nothing.
This way to the room. Or bigger. Skip bigger.
Crown है
Ground bigger.
Dressing room for the like the priest or something. Priest, yeah. I like the way all the windows nice and sit in them. Yeah.
Excuse me, sweetie. Shall we just come down here first, shall we?
Sorry.
Oh, no, okay.
Yeah, well, Arabic not again. Already again. Anyway.
What steps are there?
Iya, kan betul. Mana apa tahu? Memang.
Then you've got the brown building that's there. Sort of Tudor type thing.
Como? बेटे
अभी आ रहे नहीं आ रहे।
Amo. Amo. Hah? Ini nih.
Deep steps side.
Iya, mahal pun ini. Ini sama sih. අල්ලන්න එපා. නම meow.
As known as the house.
මෙතන දාන්න.
ඒ වෝටද? ඒ වෝටද?
නෑ.
යාව කවුරුද? Normandy flag.
ස්ටෝරි එක දන්නවද? අපිට කියලා දෙන්න.
Has scored
අන්න ගිනි ගන්නවා. ඒක තමයි ගඳක් ආවේ. Oh. Random what I said.
I'll come away first, yeah.
Yeah. Kitchen එක. Kitchen එක meat. No.
නැහැ. ඒ කවුගෙන්ද මේ? කවුගෙන්ද?
අල්ලන්නේ මීට්.
ඒවා රියල් නෙමෙයි.
ගනේෂ් එන්න නඩේෂ්
මොකක්ද අතන තියෙන්නේ?
කොතනද?
අතන
මියුසියම්.
ඒක lighthouse එක.
අල්ලන්නේ නැහැ නඩේෂ්.
Don't touch.
World War One.
ලෙවහන්න බෝ.
World War One නේ. අතනනේ. ඈ? නේ මොකක්ද? අන්නේ.
Married now? Are you going to marry?
Huh?
Are you going to marry?
They get oxygen mask on.
Dia lunas.
Injured. Injured funny. Dia bukan dia tu yang tinggi.
Boleh.
As oxygen mask. Gambar shoot panuli. Wow. May Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka.
Sorry.
Ini kayak gini.